Good morning, everybody. You know, there is a weapon that is on display from the beginning to the very end of Revelation. And if you're not careful, you'll miss it. It's a practice that becomes the key to living victoriously in Babylon and not allowing yourself to be influenced by its ways. So what is that practice? What is that weapon that I'm talking about today? It's worship. Did you realize that the book of Revelation starts with worship and it ends with worship? And its 22 chapters are constantly being interrupted with worship. If I were to summarize it all, I would say it this way: it's all about worship in Revelation. And there's a good reason for that. Worship was a necessity for the Christians that were living in Babylon. Worship was critical because worship is what changes our hearts. Worship is what molds us into people that are committed to walking in the ways of the Lamb, despite all of the outside pressures and hardships that we face in life. The major habit, the major practice performed by believers in the book of Revelation is worship. And the reason for that is because we become what we worship. Think about that. If our allegiance, if our devotion, if our worship is to Jesus, then we become like Jesus. But if our allegiance and devotion and worship is to the things of this world, guess what? We'll become just like the things of this world. Worship is what changes us, and worship is what sustains us in times of both prosperity and hardship. So there are actually 9 songs in Revelation, and those songs are what literally transformed, encouraged, and lifted up the believers in John's day, turning them from fearful disciples into dissident disciples who rose up to challenge the ways of Babylon. These 9 worship songs of Revelation were to the early church what Negro spirituals were to the slaves. In the days of slavery, the great Negro spirituals served several purposes. Here's what they served. First of all, they gave voice to the plight of the slaves. Secondly, they were a plea to God for help. And thirdly, they provided strength and comfort and encouragement that enabled those slaves to endure unspeakable hardships. Folks, as our world continues to be battered and shaken by all kinds of natural disasters, political corruption, immorality, deception, lies, violence, and the loss of liberty, just like in the days of the early church, worship in our lives is going to be more necessary than ever. Why? Because worship is what grounds us. It focuses our hearts and our minds on who, not what, on who is important. And it provides the strength and the encouragement we need to be able to endure to the end. You know, it's easy to get caught up with the dragon, the beast, with Babylon, and all of the chaos that's going on in our world and in the book of Revelation. So much so that we miss the most important part of Revelation. What is the most important part of Revelation? The worship. Over and over and over again, John is taken up by the Spirit into the throne room where what is happening? Worship is taking place. That's because every time John and his readers entered the place of worship, they were transformed. And that's what worship should do in our lives. It should transform us, and it has the power to transform our situation. You can't be in the presence of the King. You can't be in the throne room and not be transformed. And that's why the best and the most practical thing that you and I can do during times of hardship in our lives is to worship. But here's a little secret. Don't wait until things get hard to worship. Get in God's presence and start making worship a daily habit in your life right now. Because I guarantee you, it will change the outlook of your life. Well, thanks as always for joining me today. And don't forget to join us this Sunday as we continue our series called Revelation Revealed. God bless you.